Hi guys, I've just got a little thought for the day for us. So something that I've been thinking about a bit is Jesus' instruction to love our enemies. And I was kind of thinking about it a bit after the events over the weekend. Many of you will have seen the riots in London and some of the clashes between different protesters and the police, and some really horrible scenes. But one thing that came out of it that I thought was really beautiful was an image of a guy called Patrick Hutchinson, who is a Black Lives Matter protester, and the image is of him carrying an injured far right activist out of danger. And it's quite a beautiful image, I think, of people, overcoming their divisions and coming together. And a really wonderful thing that came out of some of this stuff on Saturday. Anyway, as I say, it reminded me of this instruction of Jesus's to love our enemies, and how radical that is, and how difficult it is to do in many ways. Just thinking about how we do that and how we practically apply that in our context. And I think one of the things that I love about how Jesus said that was right before he gives that instruction. It's in Matthew chapter 5. During the Sermon on the Mount, right before he says that, he actually gives a few practical examples of ways that people at the time could do that. So he says, just before that, just a couple of things. He says a few different things, but a couple of things that I'm going to pick out. He gives that well-known instruction to turn the other cheek. And what he says is, when hit on the right cheek, turn and look the person in the eye and offer your other cheek. And when you first hear that, that can sound like quite a passive thing. Just stand there and let someone hit you. Why would you do that? It almost sounds like an invitation to keep on hitting you. What we actually, if you understand the culture of the time, in Jewish culture, you wouldn't hit someone with your left hand. You'd only hit them with your right, because that hand is considered unclean. And so to hit someone in the right cheek would be a backhand, and it's something that an abusive husband might do to their wife, or a slave master might do to their slaves in that culture. And it's quite a derogatory, treating the other person as lesser thing to do. And so by standing and looking them in the eye and offering your other cheek, it's actually a way of saying, treat me as an equal, look in my eyes, see me as a person, treat me with some dignity, and the invitation is to do it. But I suppose the hope is that in doing so, it's harder to carry on doing that when you're confronted with someone's humanity. It's much harder to continue ill-treating them. Similarly, one of the other instructions that's in there is, when someone makes you walk a mile with them, go with them another mile. And that sounds like a very strange scenario, but for first century Jews, it was actually quite common to be asked to walk a mile with a soldier. At the time, they were under the occupation of the Roman Empire, and Roman soldiers were allowed by their law to sort of commandeer civilians and get them to walk a mile, carrying their luggage for them. But Roman law specified that civilians had to walk that mile, but just that. They weren't allowed to go further. So going for a second mile was actually an infraction of that law. And it's quite a subversive idea to imagine a Jew saying, actually, I'll go further with you if you're willing to do so. It's almost an invitation to kind of get to know that soldier on a human level, to look past their differences, and to maybe an invitation to love that soldier into the way of Jesus by getting to know them on a human level. And I love the fact that in both those instances, Jesus doesn't respond to violence or oppression with passivity or a violent, hateful response, but actually finds a third way to subvert and to look beyond the kind of differences, but actually to appeal to the kind of common humanity, and to see each other as people. And I think going back to that example of Patrick Hutchinson, the guy that stepped into into danger to rescue someone that he could have considered as his enemy. I don't know what he felt in that moment, but I imagine that he didn't see an enemy, but actually saw a fellow human being, and that's why he stepped in. And I love that. I think that's a really beautiful thing. And all that, it's just reminded me of a wonderful quote from Martin Luther King, which I'm just going to read out. And he said this, "Do to us what you want, and we will still love you. Bomb our houses and threaten our children, and as difficult as it is, we will still love you. But be assured that we will wear you down by our capacity to suffer, and one day we will win our freedom. We will not only win freedom for ourselves, we will so appeal to your heart and conscience that we will win you in the process, and our victory will be a double victory." I think that's just a wonderful reimagining again of Jesus' third way, not passive but not hateful. And in loving our enemies, our hope is that we will win them over. They will join us, and together we can celebrate Christ and what he's done for us. I hope that's some food for thought today.